cold night in the United States Midwest tonight. It is, I think, December 13th, and it's very chilly. So, over the last couple weeks, we've talked about writing books, how to write them, how to edit them, all of that. And so now you're to the point, you've written a book, you've edited it, you've created a publishable, printable document, and now what? How do you sell it? How do you get people to put their eyes on it and sell it? And it's easy to think that what's going to happen is you're going to put it up. It's going to be on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, and people are going to flock to it, and they're going to buy it, and you're going to be famous, and it's going to be amazing. The reality is that every day, so many people put books up on those platforms. Your book it's got minimal chance of being discovered unless you do some things to market it. So let's talk about what you can do. You could pour a lot of money into advertising. And so I'm going to right now say up front, if you have a lot of money to pour into advertising, you go, more power to you. And I'm not going to speak about that. There are lots of different ways you could approach that and lots of different lessons you can learn about that. And I'm sure that there are other ways that you can learn for the specific platform that you want to advertise on, how to do that, because each of them are different. Let me just say, AI, I think, would help you in making those decisions on how to do that. ChatGPT specifically. But let's say you don't have a lot of money to throw at advertising. So what are you going to do? The old way was you had a book signing and you sent out press releases to newspapers and magazines, and people invited you to come to their social clubs and have a talk, and that was what you did. That stuff, it kind of works, but it's just that society doesn't really do those things anymore. For one thing, print newspapers are pretty much dead. I mean, they still exist, but they're just not what they used to be. And so to send a press release to a newspaper, it may get in, it may not get in. I think they probably are on to the fact that they can charge people to just submit a press release and have it be published. So that's whatever. One thing you can do is think outside the box. So think outside the old way box. Think outside the Amazon box. Again, not sponsored. This is not sponsored. Think outside the Barnes and Noble box. Think outside of all of those things. Think about, where are your ideal readers? Think about the people who you imagine would want to read your book. Where are they? What are they doing on a day-to-day basis? What kind of people are they? How would you find them? How would they find you? So a couple things come to mind, and I'm going to share with you some of the things that work for me. Having written a series of children's books, on top of the other books I've written, series of children's books, going to a library and having a not even so much a reading, just having a presentation at a library where I talk about my characters, I talk about some specific situations they may have gotten into in the course of one particular book. And then I have an activity for them to do, and that's always really fun. So that's way outside the box, but it's really very positive. It's a positive experience for everyone who goes to it. The parents, their kids are having fun. They get to sit there and listen, and it's a really a positive experience. Another thing you can do, this is one that ChatGPT told me to do, and I haven't done it yet. So one of the series of books that I've written, and this one was written with a co-author, um, takes place in pioneer times, and it's, I guess you could call it a romance, although there's lots of shoot 'em ups and other things like that. So going to museums when they have like a history day, when they have the ladies out there churning butter for people that are coming by to see how things happened a long time ago, and they frequently on at those kinds of events will allow certain vendors will come and set up a table. So set up a table, and instead of that table being just laying out books, have it be some activity that's related to pioneer times. So I think that those things are thinking outside the box. I have an author that I've published books for who, what she did is and she still does this, she goes to bookstores and she has a poster that she's made with book covers on it, and just going to say hi to you guys, but I don't want to lose my train of thought. And thank you for your compliments about my glasses. I appreciate that. So she goes to bookstores and she has this poster, and she has we designed some bookmarks and some little cards for her to hand out and some other things like that. And I think that she doesn't really do much else. I think that because her books are paranormal, I think that if she added a little paranormal aspect to that, I think she'd get more interest. So take the subject of your book, whatever it is, and think of an activity that you could do and present in some kind of public setting, a bookstore. And you can just walk into a bookstore and say, hi, I'd like to speak to the manager about having a book signing or doing a presentation here. You can just walk into the library and say, hi, I'm an author and I would like to do a presentation here. Neither of those places are going to charge you. They might require you to bring your own table and other accoutrements, but it's not going to cost you anything. You could go to a craft fair and rent a table, and at that table you can do some activity that you can go along with. I'm going to read this. Yes, salt of the earth is from the Bible. Thank you very much. I have always considered myself a Christian. Yes. In fact, I am an ordained minister, so that's something in my feather in my cap, if you could even call it that. So in any case, think outside the box. Think outside the brick and mortar store. Think outside what your preconceived notions are. Because if your audience is children, then go to where the children are. Children go to library story time. Children go to a toy store. Children go to, well, here they have different activities like an indoor bouncy place, gymnastic classes, a rec center. Some people go to schools. There's an author I know who's, she goes to schools and does presentations, and the schools actually pay her to come and do the presentations. I'm sure her presentations are just phenomenal. That's another thing. So if you belong to a particular church, your church group may very well have some opportunities, maybe not in that particular, in your particular church building, but perhaps networking within there, you could do something. If you wrote a book, let's say you wrote a book about a lady who does yoga and she falls in love with a guy who is a master chess player. Go to the yoga studios. Ask if you can do a presentation at a yoga studio. And I know that sounds absolutely bizarre, and you're probably thinking, I can't ask those people to do that. But those kinds of things, creating an event and an activity, is something our society is sorely in need of, because everything we do is this. It's on a screen. And although this feels like I'm doing something, it's an event, it's really very passive, and it's not interactive in that we're in the same space, we're doing something together, and at the end of the time, you have something to show for the time we spent together. And so if you go to a gathering and you create a picture, let's say, okay, let's say you wrote a book about somebody who's an artist and they're solving a murder. Well, let's imagine that you guide them through a paint a picture thing, like those wine and painting parties that people do. So that kind of thinking is going to get you the exposure that you need. Unless you're a very slick talker, and by slick, I don't mean like a BSer, but somebody who's really capable of right off, just letting things roll off your tongue. I wouldn't say that offering to come on not blogs, on podcasts would be an option, because you really need to be able to speak, just blah, 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 and just talk. And because being an author, what are you going to talk about? You're just going to talk about your book? Well, how long is that going to last? So that becomes more difficult. And until you're a known person, nobody really cares about you. And that sounds horrible and harsh, but it's the truth. Nobody really cares about you. Nobody cared about Stephen King until he became rich. Nobody cares about, there's I can't even think of her name now. There's a lady who wrote a bunch of Regency type romance novels back in like the 60s and 70s. I think she was vaguely related to royalty. And she would write laying on a sofa. She would just say the story into a tape recorder, because that was back in the days of tape recorders. And then she would have somebody type it up for her. And nobody knew that. They just knew she wrote the stories about the girl that came to visit the castle on the stormy mountainside and her hair's flowing on the cover. Nobody knew anything about her until she became famous, or her books became famous. And then they wanted to know about the person who wrote those books. Until you become well known, no one wants to know. Nobody cares. Nobody really cares. So the other thing I want to talk about, but first I'm going to read this comment here. Oh, I'm not going to talk about that right now. They wanted to know about my ordination, and I'm not going to talk about that right now. So you might think that your mom's going to buy a book, and your uncle's going to buy a book, and all your best friends are going to buy a book. And here's how you know that doesn't happen. If they bought a book, they would say, I bought the book. I bought your book. I read it. It was wonderful. Or I bought your book and I wonder where you got the inspiration to write blah, blah, blah. They're not going to write your book. I have one family member who buys every book I write. One. I have bought books from everyone in my family that ever wrote a book. But only one of my family members, and I have a large family, has ever bought every single book I wrote. And I am ever grateful to her. My point being that, and this is universal. You will find that this is universal. Talk to authors. They'll say, no, I don't even market to my family members, because first of all, even if you had, let's say you have a really large family, there's 20 people in your family, and you get every single one of those people to buy a book. That's 20 books. That's all it is. You want to sell 20,000 books, right? Right? So forget about that. And I actually don't think you should even talk to them about your marketing efforts, because people will have odd ideas about marketing. Some people think it's kind of crass to market your own stuff, because they think it's kind of like egotistical to talk about what you do, or to express, to promote yourself. They think that that's like not very classy. It's not true. You have to do it. And there are different ways that different people do it. But one way that I find that's more comfortable is to, again, not just stand up there and say, hey, here I am, Lindy Casey, and I'm just this famous author, and you should listen to everything I have to say and buy my books. That's just silly. But if I say, I wrote these books because I grew up in the desert, and it was so much fun when I was a child. It was just magical. And we did all kinds of fun things. And so today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about where you live, and you're going to draw a map of your neighborhood, not your city. Don't put down your address. Just write your neighborhood, like where the best cats in the neighborhood live and where the best flowers grow. And when you start doing that and you start engaging with kids like that, it changes that dynamic from me saying, come buy my book because, gosh, I'm great, to we're in this together. We're having this adventure together. I wrote these books. I think you'll like them. But this is kind of what it's all about. This, let's just walk down this street in our imagination and remember where the best rocks to paint can be hiding. That's what you do. The pioneer thing I haven't done yet. I'm looking forward to doing that. Looking forward to when it's not freezing cold outside to do that. I think that'll be fun. I might even dress in pioneer garb to do it. I mean, it's not gimmicky either. It's just like throw yourself into your book and then say, this is what it's about. It's not just about reading these words. It's about this experience. Okay, I'm going to lean forward again. Yes. Turning it collaborative. That's absolutely. And actually, we should do that, Rook. We should do that. Rook says, love turning it collaborative. I think that would be very fun to make those presentations, because I think that's what people are missing now is the connection to other people. And reading a book's fine and good, but if you say, this is what it's really about, it's about, this is how they did these things. This is how they lived. This is how they talked. And you don't even say that. You just demonstrate it. I think that people would be interested. Now, if I was walking through a craft fair, and I regularly go to craft fairs. So if I was walking through a craft fair or a farmer's market, choose one that's an indoor farmer's market if you're going to bring books, because you don't want your books to blow away. You don't want rain to suddenly get on your books. So indoor farmer's market or craft fair. If I was walking along and I saw a table that there were people there dressed in old-fashioned clothes, and they had I don't know, I'm trying to think what you could do. You could have what could you do? Rook, give me some ideas. I can't remember what ChatGPT said. I think I sent it to you. ChatGPT had all kinds of ideas of different things you could do. And if something's going on, so there's an activity going on, even if you didn't want to, no, I don't want to churn butter. Even if you were walking by and you didn't want to do it, you would stop and watch. And that's the first step to getting that engagement, to showing people this is what my book is about. And as I said about the lady, and Rook, you know her, who goes to bookstores and she does a book reading is what she does. She reads a few pages, she talks to people, but she's not famous yet. And because she's not famous yet, nobody cares. I think she probably gets enough people that come in because she goes to busy bookstores, and people in busy bookstores will come up and they will talk to the authors. I think she sells books when she does that. But what you really want to do is, it's beyond just selling the book, this little stack of books you have with you. It's getting them excited about following you, finding out about you, knowing what you do, understanding it, and having a give and take relationship. In fact, a very important thing to do if you do those kinds of events is to have a way to gather their email addresses, because then you start creating an email list. And if I wish Rook could talk to us, because she could tell you that an email list is such an important thing to have. You have that email list and you send out emails to people on a regular basis, not spamming them, not making them crazy, but just, telling them either here's the new book, or something about the people in the book, or something about previous books, or where you're going to be. And those things keep you engaged with those people, and people love to feel like they've got a connection to authors of books that they've read. They love that. So, Rook, can you think of anything else I should talk about? Have I lost you? No, I might have lost her. Okay, so that's what I got for today. Oh, wait, she's got something. I met an author at a fair who gave out cards and QR codes to sign up for a free book if they joined her mailing list. Yeah, exactly. And if it's an ebook, it doesn't cost you anything. So you can write it especially for that purpose. And that's a great idea. There are some ways, another way, okay, see, here I go on. I always do this. I think of something else and then I might end up going far beyond my time limit. Another thing is, and we did this when we first started writing the Pioneer romance novel series, is to have giveaways, and you can do that online. There are different websites where you can sign up. You put your ebook file on their site, and then they gather those email addresses for you. And that can be very, very useful also. Again, if you just put your book into Amazon or Barnes and Noble or whatever other, electronic platform there is, yes, they work so well for building a mailing list. They absolutely do. Was it called MailChimp? Is that what it was called? I can't remember what that first one we used was. Something like that. You cannot rely on just the platform where your book lives to get your book out there in front of people, because it's not going to. There are ways that you can do SEO things, search engine optimization, where you use keywords. Some of them are almost like tricking it. And although morally I feel I have a problem with that, in reality, when you're doing, you got to play the game. If that's the game, you got to play the game. So, you could look into that, but truly, 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 you have to create events. And you could probably, if you put on your thinking cap, you could probably come up with some ways to create online events of the same type, where it's, coming at this time and we're going to do this thing together, and we'll create something together. And, I just thought maybe a sampler, an embroidery sampler for the Pioneer stuff. That's an idea. Make something, in a this kind of venue, make a pie while talking about your book. All of those things will do better than just sitting down and thinking, why is nobody finding my book on Amazon? When you consider how many millions of books are on Amazon, and how many people have lots and lots of dollars to buy advertising. Yeah. And just so you know, advertising on Amazon means that they are paying for their name to be the first one that comes up on some of these searches. It's not like an ad pops up. They're just paying for their name to come up faster. Even if somebody puts in your book name, their book might come up first. So just so you know, that's what advertising does. And if you don't have a lot of money to pay for that, you got to find other ways to game that whole system. So hopefully I gave you some things to think about today. And I'm done for the night. I'm going to go turn the heat up and get cozy. So take it easy. Thanks for coming, everybody. And thanks, Rook, for you coming. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.